Hello, my wonderful friends. Welcome to another episode of the Kindness Factor podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Randy McNeely, Captain Kindman, and we're here to share with you transformative stories of kindness because kindness delivers the love that touches hearts and saves lives. And this is just a little reminder, if you haven't done this already, it is really helpful for us to be able to get great guests and expand our kindness reach around the globe. If you'll take the time to go in and like and subscribe to this channel if you're listening on YouTube, or if you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, go in and leave us a review. Give us some love in the form of stars. We would really appreciate that. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen, and we're excited to introduce to you our next amazing guest.
There are things that we can control and there are other things that we can't. But being clear on that and accepting, right? So basically, that leads us to the first S, which is silence the judger. This is the single most critical component of the framework. Because when we think about the connection that we started out with, when we're in judgment, are we of somebody else, of ourselves? Are we really connecting? Not. We've actually severed that connection. Maybe you're connected, but not in a healthy way, not in a compassionate way. And so I always like to say, if we find ourselves in judgment of ourselves and other people, maybe just turn the volume down. Just turn the volume down.
Welcome to the Kindness Factor podcast, sharing life-changing personal stories of the transformational impact of deep kindness. Hosted by
Dr. Elia, the happiness doctor,
and Randy McNeely, Captain Kindman. Thank you for joining us. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be. Welcome to another episode of the Kindness Factor podcast. I'm Randy McNeely, aka Captain Kindman, and I'm here joined by my amazing co-host, Dr. Elia Gourgouris, aka the happiness doctor, the happiness guru, the happiness expert. You know, he's got like 5 different titles. Anyway, the happy Greek. I mean, look at that smile. You can't help it. Be glad to be able to be here. Thank Elia. How are you doing this week?
I'm doing great. I'm in sunny Southern California, not too far away from you, Amy, actually. I know you're in San Diego, and just beautiful blue skies and slight breeze. It's lovely. It's the perfect weather.
Well, and as Elia just mentioned, we are thrilled to have an amazing lady named Amy Quesenberry with us today. You know, Amy is a wonderful and ambassador. She's an ambitious, wonderfully compassionate and engaging person, and she's a master people connector. And she is also, you know, because of her connection abilities, that has won her some of the top leader in global business, consultant, and human capital and talent management awards. She's truly passionate about building teams. She's also very passionate about coaching and mentoring and developing programs to engage employees to achieve positive outcomes. The thing I like about Amy, and that has really impressed me, you know, I could go on about a lot of different things, but the beautiful thing about Amy is she is a woman who has great desire to infuse compassion into the hearts and minds of people and into corporations. She works with corporations and helps them learn how to infuse that compassion. In fact, she's got even starting a new podcast that's going to be launching. And when? March? Amy?
March 4th. It drops March 4th.
And
yeah.
what's your podcast called?
Infuse Compassion Podcast.
All right. So we're just delighted to have you with us today, Amy. Thank you for being willing to join us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the warm welcome. Anytime I can be on a platform and partner with people that really have that same value of we have the ability to make the world better just by doing simple actions to make a difference. And I remember when we first met, Randy, you know, it was just such a powerful interaction. It was kindness that brought us together. I'm literally picturing like magnets when they get close enough and they go like this, right? That's what kindness has done for us. It's like brought all of these amazing people together. So
Yeah, it's kindness attracts kindness.
that's right.
That's a beautiful visual. I'm going to remember that because, yeah, you get close enough and all of a sudden you're like this. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Amy, you know, when you look back in your life, who's your kindness hero?
Oh,
like somebody who made such a profound impact in your life that obviously you'll never forget them, and maybe even change the trajectory of your life as a result of their kindness to you.
There's so many examples. I thought about this, and I think the one that I want to use this platform to talk about um, was my doctor. He has since he's no longer practicing as a doctor, but he was actually a family doctor for my husband. And so when I came into the family, I started seeing this doctor. And this doctor would sit down, hold your hand, and look into your eyes. He truly connected and saw you as the patient. What is he doing? He's feeling what your skin feels like, right? This is a huge indicator of our health, just how our skin feels. He's looking at my eyes. What is the coloring of my eyes? What's the laboring of my breathing? He's listening to me talk. He's asking me questions, and he's assessing. I'm not saying that he doesn't value technology, but I loved that this doctor led with compassion and kindness of, let me just spend some time with this patient. I know I'm going to get the best out of this patient and hear the most clearest details of what ails them if I am present and I'm here and I make them feel safe. And that's what he did. And I think that I was going through some challenges physically at that time, and I don't think I would have been able to make it through as successfully as I did if I wouldn't have had Dr. Salerno. I have to say his name, Dr. Salerno. Yeah.
You know, it's an interesting thing that came to my mind as you're telling about him, because you said some words that really triggered it for me. In that experience, what you've just said to us is that you felt seen,
Mhm.
you felt heard, and you felt safe.
Yeah.
And you think about it, when we can create an environment where people feel that way, and think about how that it can impact a business.
Mhm.
You're going to a meeting and you feel seen, you feel heard, and you feel safe. I've been in meetings where everybody is sitting there looking around and thinking, okay, I wonder who so and so is going to chew out today, or who's he going to eat for lunch today, or what kind of gossip is going to go on in this meeting, or how are we going to see some, and those are awful.
Right.
And you think about it, and then I've been in other meetings where I actually felt seen and heard and safe, and it's just like a contrast, night and different. So that experience, being seen, heard, and feeling safe, had a tremendous impact on you. Obviously, you still remember it today, or you wouldn't even brought it up.
Yeah, it was I I hope that there are practicing doctors and nurses that hear this and say, if they're not doing it, you know what can I do to change that, right? What can I do to even show up better and be more present? Yeah.
When
Thank you for asking the question.
There's so many physicians, pretty much all of them, that have tremendous technical skills.
Mhm.
They've been to medical school, they've done residency, they've done, sometimes even more specific training. But the human factor, and the first time when you said he held my hand, she looked into my eyes and all that stuff, before you started explaining some of the medical things information he was gathering out of that, he was like, he made a connection with you,
Mhm.
and a real and genuine connection, an authentic connection. Because a lot of times we go into those clinical settings and it's cold. It's like, there's distance and there's like, and I'm Greek, the happy Greek, like Randy said. To me, the physical touch. I was a clinical psychologist for 2 decades, and you're supposed to have have some, like, to me, sometimes my patient, my client needed a warm hug, a loving, kind hug. That's it. Nothing weird about it. Like, just human to human interaction, connection, and that probably was more healing than anything that came out of my mouth or whatever. I was able to help them to know that somebody actually cares and sees them. What Randy said, he heard you, he saw you, he held you, and he gathers information, but ultimately he made you look safe, because people will never heal unless they're in a safe environment.
Yeah. And, when we think about the impact that we want to have in the world, the impact that we want to have just in our immediate circle, the people that we are interacting with frequently, how we show up, what we do, how our actions make them feel. It can be a game changer in folks. If there's some dissatisfaction in our lives, maybe we want to start here, right? Maybe we want to start here and say, what can I do differently to make this better, to make the situation, to make my household, to make my place at work, to make my neighborhood, whatever, just my life better.
I can't help it when you say that. I can't help but thinking of our friend Kevin Smith, the founder of Kindness Worldwide, and he talks about how his experience after, he founded that whole organization based on an experience with a lost wallet and somebody taking the time to return it to him. And he talks about how before he founded it, he used to watch the news all the time, and it's kind of having a negative effect on him. And then after the experience, he says, I had to stop and stop and think about things. And I had to look in the mirror. And instead of blaming other people or pointing the finger at somebody else, I had to point the finger at the man in the mirror and say, what am I doing to make a difference, to make things better? And I love that. We all have to take some time to stop and think, what am I doing? What can I do better? How can I improve? And think about it. We were talking about self-care a little bit before we started recording, right? Who do we spend 100% of our time with?
Ourselves. Right here.
And if you're walking around and your self-talk is negative, like 95% of the time, how does that impact your ability to be able to interact positively with other people?
One of the sayings in the compassion framework that I built, one of the sayings that I love to say is, you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't. So what are you doing to fill your cup? Right? What is it that you're doing that really refreshes and rejuvenates and inspires and really gets your heart to open up and be its big, beautiful self? Yeah.
Well, okay, that makes me want to ask a question. Elia, you have something though. I can see it in your face.
No, I was just going to say that, we all have a sphere of influence. It could be a few people, it could be hundreds of people, thousands, tens of thousands, or even millions of people. And I was going to say, when your cup is full, the way that you show up to your sphere of influence is very different than when your cup is empty.
That's right.
So when your cup is full, just like you said, then it doesn't matter however big your sphere of influence is, you can extend love, gratitude, kindness, service, and it's actually almost effortless. Yeah. Why? Because your batteries are full. If you're running on empty, it takes a lot of effort. Sometimes you're like, I don't even feel like helping anybody else because I'm drowning myself. So that's why that self-care is so vitally important to our happiness and our wellness and our health.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Beautifully said.
So Amy, I've got a question for you. You shared with us that wonderful experience with your doctor. How has that experience impacted your approach to sharing with people the Infuse Compassion framework? I want to first of all, let's step back and tell us just a little bit about that.
Yeah, what it is.
What it is, and then how your experience drove you to create that framework in the first place. Hello, my wonderful friends. I want to give you a fantastic opportunity today to step into the shoes of a kindness hero. How? Just watch this little video clip, and if it resonates, stop by www.kindnessworldwide.org today and make a donation to help them carry out their wonderful vision of creating cultures of kindness throughout the world. Thank you for your support.
When a wallet was returned just moments after it was lost, a purpose was found. This one act of kindness inspired the formation of the nonprofit Kindness Worldwide to create a culture of kindness in communities throughout the world. Kindness Week Worldwide mobilized the entire community in York, Pennsylvania featuring initiatives and playbook programs including blood drives, kindness cards, K-12 and college students embracing kindness, and an innovative means of community policing, kindness citations. If something so magical can happen in York, Pennsylvania, the same and other inspirations can happen anywhere and everywhere. Our Screen Scenes initiative featuring the Kindness Factor will showcase these many stories of kindness. Let's include your community among them. Kindness is the heartbeat of the world. Together, with your support, we can make all its hearts beat as one.
Yeah, so the Start with Compassion framework, that's what it's called, Start with Compassion.
Okay, it's not Infuse Compassion. Start with Compassion.
Infuse Compassion was born from Start with Compassion.
All
so
right.
Start with Compassion came first. And I spent too long not caring for myself. And I found myself at a place where I was broken, I was exhausted, I was depressed, I was lost. And I took 3 months off work. And in my time, I journaled, I meditated, I prayed. And during this time, I created this framework called Start with Compassion. Compassion is an acronym. C is the connected. How are we connecting? Dr. Elia just said the connection, right? What did that doctor do? That doctor connected with me. So the C, how are we connecting with ourselves? How are we connecting with the people around us? O is open-minded. How open-minded am I to differences, to a new way? The thing is, your path looks different than my path, and it's pretty awesome. There's nothing wrong with that. That is okay. M is for moments, what we've been talking about. How you show up matters. How you show up can change the trajectory of your life. The P, patience and perspective. When we can show up with a more patient way towards ourselves, toward the people around us, toward what's happening in the world, that can help us have a more compassionate perspective. A is acceptance, and A is awareness and acceptance. Being aware of what's happening within you, of what's happening around you. There are things that we can change, there are things that we can control, and there are other things that we can't. But being clear on that and accepting, right? So basically, that leads us to the first S, which is silence the judger. This is the single most critical component of the framework. Because when we think about the connection that we started out with, when we're in judgment, are we of somebody else, of ourselves? Are we really connecting? We're not. We've actually severed that connection. Maybe you're connected, but not in a healthy way, not in a compassionate way. And so I always like to say, if we find ourselves in judgment of ourselves and other people, maybe just turn the volume down. Just turn the volume down. So the beauty is you find yourself in this moment, you realize you can make a difference, okay? That leads you to feeling stimulated. Think about the great work that you're doing in the world, the both of you, right? There was a point, or there are things that have happened in your life that get you stimulated about the difference that you can make in your own life, somebody else's life, in the world. That stimulation leads to the I, interested, turned invested, turned intentional. When we start to feel stimulated about something, we get interested. Now, when we start putting time and effort and thought into it, now we're invested. Intention, that is when we actually do whatever it is that we've been planning to do. Intentionality is your motor. That's what propels you forward, which leads you to the O, which is onward and upward. Because when we do a good deed, dopamine and oxytocin actually start firing in our brains. A lot of people call it the helper's high. Think about the best ideas that you have. Think about the best things that you do. Are you in a good mood or a bad mood? You're probably in a good mood. But imagine if we committed to a lifestyle of living the compassion framework, of doing these things. That's where we get to new heights and horizons, because your attitude really can change the trajectory of your life. It absolutely can. And so there was a conversation, Randy, where you and I were having, and you said 1% more. Imagine if we all showed up as just 1% more compassionate to ourselves and the world around us. Imagine each day if we just showed a little bit more compassion, what kind of world would we create collectively? Thank you for letting me share.
Well, don't leave us hanging. What's the end? The compassion.
That's the end. New heights and horizons.
All right. I missed it. Okay.
Sorry. I did not deliver that well. I apologize.
No,
That's
you did
okay.
just fine. My goodness, Amy, we are cranking along here, and we're getting close to the time that we need to wrap up. But you know, that framework is, thinking about the word compassion. I love that. And compassion is in my mind, it's synonymous with kindness. So, caring, giving love away, looking for opportunities to take people to new heights. Every time we are compassionate and kindness, and show kindness and give that love away, we have the opportunity to be somebody's miracle, to step in as somebody's kindness hero, and have a chance to be able to, not only take them to new heights, but take ourselves to new heights. There's a statement, what is it? You climb with me, I climb with you, you climb with me, and we'll ascend together, or something like that. I'm totally slaughtering that as I paraphrase it, but the idea is we're lifting each other up as we go along.
That's right. That's right.
Well, is it time for the 3 pearls of wisdom?
Yeah, Amy, we're going to put you on the spot again. We got to ask you if you're going to share 3 little pearls of wisdom or nuggets of wisdom with our audience, what would they be?
Yeah. I would start with showing compassion to yourself, being kind to
It has to
yourself.
be number 1. Yeah, I agree. Number 1.
It all starts here, right? And this can sometimes be the hardest because oftentimes we're thinking and we're caring about the people around us. But if we can really prioritize ourself, making sure that we have what we need, as we've discussed, we can show up so much better in the world. The second pearl of wisdom is think about the people that you spend your time with, and think about how you feel after you leave the interactions, or how you feel prior to going into an interaction. Are you excited? Are you nervous? Afterward, are you drained? Are you motivated and excited? Are you inspired? And the reason why I say this is because just like we make an impact, others make an impact on us. And so I think that if we can get intentional about where we're spending our time, who we're spending our time with, it can make a difference. And then the third is my mind is going in 2 different places, but I'm going to leave with
Give us both. It's okay if we got
okay. So one is well, I've simplified it to 1. I want people to really think about how important they are, how they matter to the world. What a difference, like imagining this world without you, or without you at your best, and to just really sit back and appreciate what you do and everything you're doing. And it doesn't have to be perfect, and you can make mistakes, right? That's okay. But to just really honor you, your heart, your soul, and your importance in this world.
And a lot of people struggle with that number 3, big time. I've had, in my private practice, I have to tell you, I have so many people that said that nobody would miss me if I left, if I exited this life, and they meant it a lot of times. And I had to kind of reframe that and come back to what you said as number 3, the worth of a soul, the worth of you, in spite of your imperfections, because that silencing the critic that you talked about, that's a huge one, because that voice was so loud, they couldn't see their value, their innate God-given value that they had. And sometimes they needed a reminder from the outside. It's like, well, I don't see you that way. The way that you view yourself, that's not how I see you. That's not how other people see you. And kind of reframe that for them. But that's a big one, number 3. And it's not easy for a lot of people.
It's not. It comes back to what we said earlier. You know, when we spend 100% of our time with ourselves, and if that inner critic, you know, has a big loud voice, it's not easy to step back and say, I have worth. I matter. I can't help but thinking, you know, I called Jarris Tucker out in my interview that I had with Amy and Mark earlier, and I'm going to call him out again here. He was one of our guests earlier, and you remember what he said, Elia? He says one of the things he does every day, at the end of the day, he'll take the time to look in the mirror and say, I love you. And he tells himself why he loves himself. And you think about that goes hand in hand with what you just shared with us. You know, we need to take the time to stop and think, I matter, I make a difference, I love myself because this X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Amy, for joining us today. What a wonderful opportunity. Thanks for sharing the Start with Compassion framework. I got it right. I didn't say Infuse Compassion. I said Start with the Compassion framework.
Thank you, Amy.
We want to thank you, our audience, for taking the time to be with us today when you could have been doing other things. And I want to ask you just 3 little quick things. Take the time at the end of the day and stop and ask these 3 questions. What did I learn? How is it applicable to me? And what am I going to do about it? And then take action. We can all go out and make a difference, as our friend Barry Shore says. We can go mad, and we can always strive to remember every day, remember that with kindness,
Everybody
everybody
wins.
wins.
That's it.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, my wonderful friends. Thank you again for joining us today. We really appreciate you. If you would like to connect with Amy Quesenberry, all the information about her website and social media links are included in the show description. Thanks again for joining us.